Hey, what's up? Today we're going to talk a little bit about stress. So, quite often I think my life, my waking hours are filled with stress. And I tried to analyze why that is the case, and I think I've got some idea. So, firstly, I feel like because easy things are easy, we often want more challenging tasks. So if you look at a game and you play the game on easy mode and you've conquered easy mode 7 times over, you want something a little bit more challenging. So you go up a level, you go up a level, you go up a level. Next thing you know, you're playing the game on difficult mode. So we make things more challenging, more harder for ourselves, because otherwise it's not fun, right? Like doing things that you know you can do easily, that you've done over and over, what's the fun in that? Like, you know the outcome. So we make things more difficult for ourselves in the hopes of, the bigger the dragon you slay, hopefully the bigger the treasure. And quite often that is the case. And so I think we put it upon ourselves to make our lives a little bit more difficult. Difficult to the point where we know we can kind of conquer what we're doing, but obviously not too difficult to the point where we can't actually achieve it. Or maybe that is there, but then the time it takes for you to achieve that goal, etc., may be different. So yeah, I think we put stress upon ourselves. There are obviously a number of different ways that stress can come into your life. It could be a relationship, it could be losing your job, losing your bad income, it could be not being able to do something from an injury, setting yourself back. There's a number of ways that people can get stress, but I think probably one of the ones that most people would be going through is through work. I think work is probably one of the biggest stress factors. And I think personally for me, and maybe anyone else in this area might agree, I think anything to do with software engineering is particularly difficult or particularly challenging. And I think the reason why it's so challenging is because there's constantly new technologies being evolved that we have to adapt to. And a lot of the times when you get a task and it's something that you know how to do, you've done it before, it's much easier to kind of estimate how much time and effort it will take to solve that problem. But a lot of the times you're learning new things or having to look at new things, and so with new things they're hard to estimate because you've never done it before, or you might have not done it before, and so yeah, we're constantly faced with challenges. And I know for a fact there are some people with some really seemingly very easy jobs. It certainly looks that way, and based on some conversations with certain people, I actually think there are some very, not simple, but I've heard the term lazy girl job somewhere, so I don't know if that's degrading. I don't mean it to be degrading. I think I just heard that term somewhere. But essentially, it's these kind of soft jobs where it doesn't require that much mental focus per se, and maybe it's a little bit more EQ based, or maybe it's a little bit more kind of emotional, like EQ, emotional feelings based. A quick example that comes to mind is maybe like an account manager, or where kind of you got the general idea of the product or service that you're working on, and you're kind of just telling people what to do, you're kind of listening to their problems, and you kind of just, in some ways you're orchestrating some of the things, but you're not actually working on building anything per se. I mean, sure, you're doing documents and stuff. I don't want to discredit that. Particularly, I know there's some really hard workers in those roles, but I've seen people that are some very, not lazy, but they haven't done a lot in those roles, and yet they get by, they get paid well. And I know there's lots of jobs like that. And I've even talked to somebody recently who is in sales, and I asked them, is there any stress, what are your stresses in your life right now? And pretty much no stress from work. And I could imagine for myself as well, as if I was working at a clothing store and I was selling clothes, I would imagine my life would be very repetitive. And I mean, because of that, you might not get paid as well as maybe you could get paid because the job is somewhat easy, but you could get paid well for those roles as well. And it doesn't really take that much mental focus. You kind of clock in, you clock out, and there's not really any difficult parts to that your mind has to focus on. There's no difficult problems you have to solve probably. You're literally talking to people, helping them with their transaction, and you're not really innovating, or you're not really getting any difficult tasks in front of you, in my opinion. So anyways, there's lots of things where I feel like there are less stressful jobs, but maybe we pick the stressful jobs because it matches our level of capability. But I don't know if that necessarily pays the best. Like what the ROI is in terms of effort versus pay. Like maybe if you're not working a difficult job and you can save that mental focus for like a side project. It's tough to say, but yeah, stress has been on my mind lately. People with a lack of stress have certainly been a curiosity for myself as well. Oh, quickly, one more thing. I think different people will have different takes on what an overly paid, easy job looks like. Another one for me is maybe designers. From what I've seen, their job looks so easy and it seems like they get paid fairly well for what they do. From my point of view, and maybe a designer would think otherwise, and I'm sure there's lots of things that they may be doing that I don't necessarily see, but from my point of view, it seems like they just look at other apps and websites, copy and paste, maybe change a few minor things that's not even worth changing. Material UI, stick this here, add it to a Figma, boom, you've got a UI. It's oftentimes it's just a static image as well, right? And it's not, what I found is that they're not always complete. So as a developer, you have to do quite a bit of extrapolation because the information isn't there, and it's always a bit frustrating because you have to go back and forth, and there's no problem going back and forth, but it's like you're doing their job for them from an engineer's perspective. So yeah, it seems like one of those, to me, it seems like one of those easy but high paying jobs. So I would recommend it for other people, to be honest. But obviously don't take that as like holy grail. It's just my perspective, things I've seen, and maybe in different places, different countries, it might be different. But yeah, from what I've seen in New Zealand, it seems to be a decent job for what it is. But yeah. And I think the perspective would be different based on the person as well, right? We see different things. Certain things might be easy for us because it comes natural to us, but it's more difficult for others. So yeah. I often wonder though if we should be doing things that are more natural or easy for us, even if it's a slightly less pay, because if that makes your job way easier, but the pay only dips a little bit, or it might even go up, is like, are you doing the right job or the best job for your skill set at the right time? It's a tough balance, and it's not like you can always choose what job you get or what company hires you, so it's easier said than done. But there are definitely jobs out there that look incredibly easy that I know get paid well, and there are some jobs that aren't even stressful for some people. So something to think about. And yeah, I think life is full of stress. I guess if life was too easy and there was no stress, like, would that be a fun life? It seems fun. It seems like it would be fun when you're dealing with a lot of stress. But yeah, I mean, I've also heard the saying like, rest when you're dead. Something along those lines, right? So it's like you want to kind of make the most of your life, hopefully, and do the best you can. But yeah, life is full of stress. I imagine that's the case for a lot of people. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.